All right, I want to thank you for sticking around. It's Saturday. I greatly appreciate your time coming to us and learning so much more. This next vignette is absolutely not to be missed, especially if you'd like to think about changing your life a little bit. Well, this vignette could not be possible without our sponsor today, which is Standard Process. Standard Process has been a leader in whole food nutritional supplements for 95 years. They cultivate raw ingredients from seed to soil to supplement, the great majority of which are grown on certified organic farm. They create a high quality product that advances health and changes lives. Remember that. To learn more, visit standardprocess.com. All right, this next vignette is chock full of fun. Why? Because, well, sometimes you need to understand that there's not a straight path from here to there, and we have two fabulous guests, Dr. Anna Falconato and Dr. Greg Snow with me today. And I want to talk to you about how they got where they got, and perhaps a little bit more about why chiropractic is such a fulfilling career choice. So let's get started. I'm going to introduce our two guests. Dr. Anna Falconato was born and raised in Sao Paulo, Brazil. And her first teaching experience was actually when she was 14 years old. So she is an early bloomer. She taught ballet at the studio, and she prospered in both tap, which she told me she loved, and ballet, and flamenco for over 15 years. So you know that she got the teaching thing down. She always dreamt of helping people, and I think dancing is a really nice way to help people, but she wanted more. So she enrolled in her very first chiropractic program in Latin America. After she graduated from chiropractic school at the University of Anhembi Morumbi, she received a scholarship, and that completed a residency program at the University of Western States. Dr. Falconato is passionate about helping the students to be successful and have a great experience while in chiropractic school. Now, one of my personal friends is Dr. Greg Snow, which is why he's here today, because he didn't have a choice. I am absolutely delighted to bring him in. Dr. Greg Snow is the Senior Campus Administrator and Dean of Academic Affairs for Palmer West Campus. That's where I graduated from. His previous role includes Dean of Academic Affairs, Dean of Clinics, faculty clinician, and he has taught multiple courses over his 29-year tenure. I got to tell you, he's what my mom would call the jack of many trades. He's just a brilliant individual. He's authored many scientific journal articles. He's been at many conferences, offering and presenting several papers at scientific conferences. He's a peer reviewer for 4 scientific journals. There's a reason these talented people are here today. He's a 1990 graduate of Palmer College West Campus, and he received his Bachelor's of Arts from the University of Iowa, and he is currently, see, it never stops. If you're listening now, your education starts and it just keeps going. He is now taking a master's educational leadership at Cal State University East Bay, which is really fascinating because I too am a master's from Cal State Hayward East Bay. So it's kind of fun the way the circle of life brings us back. I met her beautiful sister in Sao Paulo when I was there. So you never know where you're going to go. And with that being said, I want to reflect on, let's begin. If you're out there and you think to yourself, wow, I've been listening all weekend long, what is this chiropractic thing about? How do I get to become a chiropractor? Hold on. Wait till we hear their circuitous path to getting there. So first I want to ask you this. As you were going through your personal journey, and as you were thinking about what you wanted to do next, let's start with you, Dr. Anna, how did you end up picking chiropractic?
Well, it was very interesting because think about it, 20 something years ago, I'm gonna give up my age now, but chiropractic wasn't a profession in Brazil. So there was maybe 1, 2 chiropractors in Brazil back in the 90s. And then I wanted to do dance. So I applied for a dance university and I passed on a very hard to be admitted at school, but I wanted to help people. I wanted to, and help, as you said, dancing and teaching dance was a way to help people, but I wanted to help them in a different way. So my mom came home with this flyer that had a person, it was saying, everybody's gonna give their back to you now. And I was like, what does that mean? Become a chiropractor. Everybody's gonna give their backs to you. And I was like, what is that? She was like, well, you were thinking about physiotherapy, but this is a new program. What do you think? So my mom was the very first one to encourage me, on this very different profession. There wasn't, even Google wasn't there for us to search, what does a chiropractor do? So I was like, I'll try. So yes, I wanted to just help people, and I graduated from the very first group of chiropractors in Latin America.
How exciting! Yeah. She is a path finder. She finds the path and then she leads the way, because you have inspired so many people to become chiropractors. For the parents out there, clearly it made an impact, right?
I had support from my parents.
We know as parents that we want to guide and love our children and adopt what we see in them and maybe make some just gentle suggestions. They may or may not engage in it, but what a fabulous thing. I mean, without her mom, we wouldn't have such an amazing individual. And now, Greg, you're so scientific. You're very academic and you're very thoughtful in everything you do. How did this happen for you?
So it happened early for me. I was actually experienced chronic headaches as 8 years old or so, where I'd come home from school every day and I just had to lay down because I had these, headaches that were bad enough that I didn't feel like going out and playing and doing the other things you'd want to do after school as a kid. So that was going on, and then my stepfather, kind of in that same time frame, became permanently disabled from a work perspective as a lineman for our California electrical company. And so we couldn't afford to live in California anymore, and so we relocated to Florida. And while there, my stepfather went to see my grandmother's chiropractor, and then he actually got restored his health well enough that he was able to join the workforce again. For a second career for him. And then after his good results with that chiropractor, they took me in for my headaches, and that got rid of my headaches after a few visits.
Wow.
And thank you, Dr. Cook. I don't know that he's with us anymore, but I still remember his name because it was so impactful for me. And so I started seeing a chiropractor. Probably I was 10 or 11 when I saw him. And I kind of decided at that point that that's what I wanted to do. I was very scientifically oriented. It was a new profession, but it was one where I knew I could help people in a way that the other health providers I was seeing hadn't helped me.
Sure.
And so, I went to college. I thought about doing other things. I got my undergraduate degree in chemistry, but I realized that, and I even worked as a chemist for about a year, and I'm like, it's not doing it for me. It's not really fulfilling me. And so my stepfather actually became a chiropractor. I should have added that in there. So he went to Palmer's campus in Davenport, Iowa, and in his mid to late 30s, he became a doctor of chiropractic, and then ended up retiring a few years ago when he's 81.
He retired at 81.
Yeah.
Epic.
With my mom, and good on them for this. My mom was the office manager that entire time.
Wow. You see, when you think about these two individuals, which they're very integral in the chiropractic profession, we brought them here because of the passion and the resilience. But I also want you to think, as you're listening out there, that wasn't a straight route. I mean, here's an 8-year-old who suffered for 2 years with headaches. Here's a dance instructor who wanted to do more, have more, be more, and help people in a different way. So you can see there's no real straight path to where we go with our lives. And also, hearing your stepfather's story is amazing, because he went from very significant disability where he had to move his family to becoming a chiropractor.
Right.
And then involving family members, which, if you knew my family, you knew that, my two boys were in the back. People were picking them up as babies and patting them. And my husband obviously had a major role in it. So I want you to recognize this career in chiropractic is so beautiful because there's so many different ways you can go. Now, I want to just dive into, they talked about two things that were really important. The before factor, I'm a dance instructor and I'm a chemist. And you're diving to the next state of chiropractic. Did both of you have like a good mentor? For you, it was probably your stepdad. And for you, was there a good mentor who kind of embraced you and said, this is what the profession is about, let's consider going further with it?
For sure, Dr. Eduardo Brasher, who is the person who started the chiropractic program in Sao Paulo. And he graduated here in the United States and came back to Brazil. He's Brazilian, and he came back to Brazil, and he was immediately contacted by the provost at University of Morumbi, and he said, I want to create this program. And he partnered with some universities here in the United States, and he created the program, and I think in like 6 months they had it ready. So wow. He definitely was the one coordinating the students, teaching the classes, translating the slides, and he really made an impact for chiropractic in my life and in Brazil too.
That's beautiful. And obviously your stepfather, and who else comes to mind as you were thinking about the career in chiropractic?
So I had my personal experiences. My stepfather was going through school. I was like a patient in the clinic, and so
he was a guinea pig.
And so, I had that kind of immersion through his educational experience. I got connected with that. And also, even in high school, I had my biology teacher, advanced biology teacher, Dr. Betty Rich. And I remember we had to do research, like a little research study on a project, and I decided to do it on chiropractic. And this is in the late 70s, early 80s. So there was almost no research back then, which created kind of
Sure.
I got challenged on that. And so that's, I think, part of the reason why I try to contribute to the research base now, which is, of course, is massive and extensive for the profession and its value. But she was impactful for me just in terms of how I pursued it and what I was looking for in my education, and then how I applied it afterwards.
I really like that both of you answered it so beautifully in a different way, because I think we go through life, it's a journey. It's a personal journey of who's giving you the information, how you're receiving that information, and then having the wherewithal to go to the next step and kind of engage in that dream. What does that dream look like when I become a chiropractor? Where does it lead you? Interesting enough, that's like a circle of love right here, because Dr. Eduardo married my roommate.
Oh, that's true.
So,
I forgot about that detail.
So it's quite, I never met her at that time, but here we are, 24 years later, sitting on the couch. And so I give a shout out to Dr. Eduardo and his beautiful wife, Dr. Cherie, who just had her birthday yesterday. So a very fun thing that we kind of go through these circles of you never know who you're going to meet or how they're going to change or impact your life. Speaking of that, it's a personal journey. I want you, since you've been in the educational academic portion of it, can you both kind of share with me, when you see students that are really looking into chiropractic, how do you engage with them about that next step where they're thinking about chiropractic? How do they know that a career in chiropractic is going to be rewarding? What are some of the things that you would say you should have attributes for or willingness to?
Well, first thing is really enjoying helping people. And someone at a conference yesterday was saying, well, we would treat that person even if they don't have money, because we like to help. We were educated to help people. So when you go to a chiropractic, but you decide by the chiropractic career, the first thing I think you need to know is that you're going to be helping, and making sure you were ready to with your credits, so you are successful in the program, because it is a hard program.
Yes.
So there's a lot of studying. There's a lot of tests, boards, exams, but when that phase is over, there's a lot of joy. There's a lot of joy helping other people and being able to connect with different people, communicate with different people, and just be there for them when they need you.
Love that answer. It's so nice to hear as we go through and we kind of engage on what do you see when you bring in a student. You've been on so many different roles at Palmer College that I'm sure you can kind of see the sparkle when a student comes in. What are some of the things you see as great attributes when you start talking to a student and then they finally make that change, and you're probably going, you had all the things that I was hoping, and now I'm glad you made that final decision?
Well, I think it's, you have to have a level of passion for helping people, right? Exactly what Anna said. And so, but you also have to have dedication, persistence, and grit.
Grit,
because
good word, grit.
I don't know that you could choose a more rewarding profession in healthcare than you can get as a chiropractor. But you have to put in your time and your effort to get through the program. And then largely, chiropractors are entrepreneurial by nature. Yeah. And so, that requires sweat equity and all those other attributes I mentioned in order to build your practice to a degree where it's successful. And so it's when you get to that point, and even before that, the interactions you have with patients and your ability to improve their quality of life, because there are a lot of doctors out there that do a lot of different things, but there aren't a lot of what I would call quality of life doctors. And I think that's what we do as chiropractors. We address that, we address big issues, we address trauma, but we also address things like headaches that people will go through their whole life saying, oh yeah, that's just normal. Well, it's not normal. Nor is back pain, nor are a number of other things. And so our ability to help people not only be pain-free, but to be able to function and move and do the things that they want to do and hold their kids or their grandkids and play golf 3 times a week if they want to. Those abilities are what make the profession so fulfilling. And I think beyond that, most doctor experiences when you go in as a patient are brief and isolated. And one of the great things about what we do as chiropractors is we see patients over time, and we see them with some repetition, and we may see them for off and on for decades, and we see the parents, and we see the kids, and if you stick around long enough, you'll see the grandkids. And
True story.
So I've always said that chiropractors are probably the closest thing to your old country doctor type of healthcare model. And it not only in the longevity and connection we have with our patients, which makes our work so meaningful and deep, but also with the diversity of what we do for patients. We're not just doing one thing all day long. We're doing a variety of different things dependent on the patient's presentation, because we have such a broad spectrum of types of conditions that we see and a broad spectrum of ways to treat that.
Yeah.
And
you know
so,
what I like to say? I'm sorry to
No, please
Jump
do.
in.
Conversation.
What I like to say when I'm talking to students that are applying is that we not focus on what's the matter with the patient, but what matters to the patient.
Absolutely.
Nicely said.
Yeah, because you may have 2 female, 50 years old with back pain. This one wants to go back to running because she likes to run. This one wants to go back to playing with their kids or grandkids. So the way you approach those 2 50-year-old females is going to be different. And maybe the treatment may be similar, maybe completely different. It depends on if they have the same diagnosis. But the way you approach them is going to be different because their goals are different. Right?
And as I see it, and I want to reflect on a little story that I was at a program, it's called AIMS, Alaska Interior Medical Society, and they had a panel of doctors. And on that panel was a radiologist, and he was sitting beside me. And he's like, "You're the first chiropractor that's ever been on this panel." And I smiled and I said, "Well, that's fun." Because it was about helping people that are going out on the fishing boats, as well as talking about what the science is. Because you can't send someone on a fishing boat in Alaska under the guise of opiates, because that's not going to work. They got to stay on the boat. Okay, so first, step one, stay on the boat. So we started talking, and I said, one of the things that is the most fulfilling part about chiropractic is that you get to know the patient really well. And I know their name, I know their family members, I know everything that comes in, and I'm not writing a prescription. I'm watching physically them.
Yeah.
I'm physically watching over them, the quality of life, how you're treating the patient. I get to touch them, which is the most beautiful thing I can tell you, because when you're at this event, we're touching. Like, we're hugging, we're hugging, we touch. But the best part was the radiologist turned to me and he said, "You made me kind of sad." And I said, "Why so?" And he goes, "I don't know any of my patients, and I feel the sadness now.
Sure.
Nobody touches me. I don't know if they're going to live or die. I have no control over what happens to them." I want you to reflect on that. And absolutely love radiologists and know that they're important. Same with pharmacists. When you two look back over the time that you have been in chiropractic, before you went in and where you are today, I want you to reflect on what would you have told your pre-chiropractic self to being the magnificent individuals that you are that have touched so many lives. What would you tell yourself back then, sitting on this couch?
Keep going. Keep going, because for me specifically, it is a new profession, but there's a lot for you to explore and there's a lot for you to learn. So I would just say keep going, because you're in the right way.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I think it's the persistence element of it too, but also find your niche, right? There's so many within our profession. There's a lot of different niches in there, and it's sometimes you have to find the niche that's the best fit for you. So I love treating patients, I love seeing patients, but I also love teaching. And so when I moved into education, my first role was working in the clinic system, teaching students in the midst of a public clinic, providing patient care, which was like the best of all worlds for me. And then as it turned out, I had some skill set that worked well for administration too. And so, my path changed over time in that as I moved along there. But it's like, find the place that fits best for you, whether it's a subspecialty of types of care for chiropractic, or whether it's, education or research or hospital-based care, or whatever the case may be.
So
and
many options, you're right.
There's a lot of different
Dr.
things
Snow,
to do.
I mean, you've seen the ramifications of just starting out in Brazil and seeing how fast and quickly it's grown. And not only that, if you're thinking about it, don't hesitate. Follow up, find a mentor, talk to someone at a chiropractic college. You can go to f4cp.org. You can find a chiropractic college there. You can talk to people that have really been in the chiropractic profession. But I sincerely want to thank both of you, because you've made a major impact in this profession. It's still growing, and there's still room for you. So don't forget that you keep going and you find what you think is going to work for you. So I want to thank both of you for sharing your personal stories. I want you to recognize that the road is not always straight. It's circuitous. It's a beautiful journey. And we want you to continue and think about, perhaps this is a career for you. Now, we are halfway through this ChiroThon, and I want to ask you, are you willing to make an investment in your future? Because if you are, you can go to f4cp.org/ChiroThon. You can donate today so we can help people all around the world. Sao Paulo, Ethiopia, everywhere. So people can have a drug-free approach to their health care. So I want to remind you that we're making money, and we have a very, very exciting announcement. We are now at $23,868. So thank you. Opening your wallets, your hearts, your minds, and spending Saturday with us really means a lot to us. We still have so many more great guests you do not want to miss. I mean, PGA, Olympic athletes, outfielders, Rookie of the Year. It doesn't stop. So stay with us. We keep on going. We don't want you to go too far. listen, the professional athletes are pretty epic. So we'll be back here at 1:30 Pacific Standard Time. In the meantime, help us build braver, better education, elevation, understanding, and get the research out by donating today. frcp.org/ChiroThon. Make your donation today. We really appreciate it, and we'll be right back.